Shalom, my name is Rabbi Mel Gottlieb, and I'm coming today to speak on Parshat Tezaveh. We wish you many blessings, Chasdei Hashem, to everybody. And I'd like to speak to you today about the Torah, about the most important korban that we find in the Torah. The rabbis say that the Torah was the most powerful of all the sacrifices, and it had amazing powers. It says beautifully that the Torah, by inhaling the fragrance of that fine column of smoke, when it rose straight up with the help of the smoke-producing herb, one's heart would become purified with joy and illumination in the service of Hashem. When the shaft of smoke rose up from the Torah, the Kohen would see the letters of the holy name, Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, float upwards. Following this, holy chariots would surround him on all sides until he himself was able to ascend with light and joy. The rejoicer would rejoice, and he would bind bindings above and below in order to unify all. For this reason, we must precede the prayers each day with the recital of the Torah in order to remove impurity from the worlds. The Zohar says, no other sacrifice has the power to bind Israel to the supernal unity as the Torah. The word Torah in Hebrew is kesher, it's to bind, to connect, to bind one to one's spiritual root. Much of the Torah, descriptions of the Torah you can find in the Gemara Keritot on page 6b, but the assumption is that it was the most powerful offering in the Torah. So the Torah had 7 incense spices in it, 10 sweet-smelling spices, and chalbana, which was 1 putrid spice, which was included in the sacrifice of the Torah, that the Kohen Gadol every morning and every late afternoon burned in the holy altar, the secret altar behind the curtain. So there are many secrets of the Torah. Let's introduce some of them. One is the secret of the chalbana, the putrid smell. Why was it contained in with the beautiful smells in the sacrifice? So the rabbis say the following, that in human creation, there's good and there's evil, there's darkness and there's light. If you only concentrate on the light and ignore the darkness has a power, it's denied, it's ignored, and it evolves in power to cause havoc in the world. The way to overcome evil is to integrate it with the light, with a sweet-smelling smell, and let the power of the light impact upon the putrid smell and extract the light that's really contained in evil as well. Because evil, according to the Zohar, according to the Kabbalah, is meant to be integrated in the world, not to be destroyed, but to have it repent and give power to the light. The light gains power by connecting and transforming the darkness that is there. So it says about the Torah that another of the secrets is that it has the power to overcome Lashon Hara. Lashon Hara is the root of evil. Evil speech is what the Nachash, the snake in the Garden of Eden, seduced Eve and told Eve, there is no God. You are free to do whatever you want. And the Nachash was the source of the Lashon Hara, but the Nachash can be transformed into Mashiach. Mashiach has the same gematria, numerology as Nachash. And if you can integrate the evil and transform it, that is the Messianic era that occurs when good and evil are seen integrated, and indeed there is no evil at that point, because evil was always had its power from the light, from imbibing from the light, And when that is revealed, there's no more separation. Everything is in unity and beauty, and we have the world to come. But in our world, it says that we must face evil, must face the chalbana. It says in the Mishnah that any fast day that doesn't contain a sinner in it is not an effective fast day, or any minyan that doesn't contain a sinner is not does not have effective prayer in it. In other words, unless we confront the evil within ourselves or the evil on the outside and integrate it and face it, it retains power and we become split between the imagined good and the evil that's outside of us. And we split and we always create discord and fighting between the two groups. But if we integrate evil and look at evil within ourselves as well and not deny it and realize that we're just as imperfect as everyone else, so we have empathy and compassion for those who are sinners, and they feel our compassion and they get drawn into the light and they are transformed. So we must always not be judgmental, but realize that the darkness is just there to be transformed. It's tshuva that's required, not destruction of evil. And it says, "B'makom shebal tshuva omed ein tzadik gomor yachal lamad bo." A place where the Baal Tshuva has undergone a transformation, even a perfect righteous person can't stand, who might be simplistically righteous, but doesn't do the work of transforming evil in the world. So one of the secrets is that it can transform evil into good, the chalbana. It can overcome lashon hara. It can extract holiness from the klipot, and it can influence tshuva in the world. Why is it called the secret of chalbana, the secret of the Torah? What's the secret of it? And why is it connected to lashon hara? Because lashon hara, we generally whisper. We say things in secret that creates havoc and contempt for others and tachrut and competitiveness. And the Torah also has secrets to it. Why should chalbana be in it? Why is it given behind the curtain? It has a tremendous power to transform. The olfactory sense, we see this with herbs, it can elevate the spirit and cleanse us in some way. And in the ancient days, the Ketoret and the Kohanim were blessed to be transformed with the Ketoret, and all the Jewish people as well imbibed from the Spirit. So the rabbi said that after the destruction of the temple of the Beit HaMikdash, we have to recite the karbanot and the karban of Ketoret every morning in the prayer service. In the day, the Sephardim do it in a daily tefillah, and the Ashkenazim do it on Shabbat, because the Ramah said that everyone has to rush off to work during the week, so we don't want to create any stress on the tzibur, on the community, so we only recite it on Shabbat. But Pitim Torah was viewed as a very important prayer, that to recite the karbanot, the Torah, before the tefillah really elevates the tefillah. You purify yourself. It transforms the Yetzer Hara. It can even transform death. We see in the story in Bamidbar with Korach, when Hashem tells Aaron to stop the plague, to end the death by burning the incense, the Ketoret. It has tremendous powers. So we're supposed to recite the Ketoret with kavanah every morning. We do that, right after Birchot HaShachar, before Mizmor Shir, we recite the kavanot, and we're supposed to have special kavanah when we recite the Ketoret. Even Ashkenazim do that. They don't say the Pitim HaKetoret afterwards, only on Shabbat, and the Sephardim do it both before, after Birchot HaShachar and after the Amidah with Pitim HaKetoret. But the idea is to, though we don't have the Ketoret themselves, And this is really the tragedy of the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash. We don't have the music, we don't have the olfactory senses that open us up bodily to Hashem as well. We just recite it. But nevertheless, if we recite it with the kavanah and with the intent to know what it has the potential to do, and we try to transform ourselves in the meditation on the Torah, it gives our tefillah greater power. So the rabbis also say that the words Ketoret, the initials is Kuf is Kedusha, Tet is Tahara, purity, holiness, purity. Ketoret, Reish is Rachamim, compassion, and Taf is Tikva, hope. So the Ketoret embodies that notion of purification, which leads to empathy and compassion and connection, which leads to hope and faith in the world and the potential of what we as human beings can do. So also the letter Chet is very interesting, the Chelbana. Levana means white. The Chelbana transforms it into a putrid smell. Chet is also the letter for Chet, for sin. It's also the letter for Choshech, for darkness. But from the darkness, from the sense of sin, that Chet can be transformed into Chayim, into life, and Chesed, giving. It's if we utilize darkness and don't repress it, don't deny it, but we face it, face the anxieties within the self, for example, our dark places, our depressed places, and face our fears and work them through, we become much stronger, we become whole, and we become beings of light, of Chayim and life, and that's the power of the Chet. So may we all be blessed that we recite the Torah every day with kavanah, and we overcome the splits, and we overcome placing people who are putrid smelling outside of the camp, and therefore they can't transform us, they can imbibe from our light, and we can't transform them, and we create separations which cannot lead to a world of wholeness and the world of Mashiach that we want to bring into our life. The other thing I just want to say about Parshat Tezaveh that's always interests me, it relates to clothing. The clothing of the high priest, the beautiful dignity that they have with all these beautiful 8 begadim. And it symbolizes to me that when we take on a role of importance in leadership, we have to dress with dignity, and which suggests to us that we are people of dignity, that we were all created with Tzelem Elokim, that we're the lamp of the Lord, our neshama is the lamp of the Lord, and we have a responsibility to appoint ourselves with beauty and with a centeredness, because if we don't have that, we're always prone to other people's opinions, to not expressing what we really feel, but look to be loved, and we lack that centeredness. So we have to have the clothing dressed in a way that elevates us to a state of dignity. On the other hand, clothing also teaches us that we have to have humility as well when we wear this clothing. The high priest took off the clothing when they left the inner sanctuary, and also we see something very special, that Aaron the Kohen was dressed by Moshe. Moshe put the clothing on Aaron, and some of the Hasidim suggest that that's what that obviated the potential for Aaron to find hubris or arrogance that through the clothing. No, he felt that the clothing was a gift to him, and all his dignity came from the giving of others to him, from Moshe giving him the clothing, Moshe making the clothing. We only reach the level of grandeur when we feel that interconnection, and we have that humility and that sense of gratitude to others who helped place us in this position. But clothing is also important to wear when necessary, not to associate it with grandeur, with arrogance, but to realize it gives us a sense of dignity. After all, Hashem clothed Adam in the garden. Clothed Adam, the word for clothed is levush, which means lo yivosh. You should not be ashamed. You should not be ashamed of yourself. You're created in the image of God. We see also the story with David, King David and Shaul, an indication of that. When Saul came to attack David and surround him and destroy him because out of jealousy and a sense of competitiveness, before he attacked, the night before, he went into a cave to sleep. And David's general said to David, now we can go and kill Shaul. He's vulnerable. We could attack him in the cave. And David said, no, we're not going to kill him, but I'm just going to snip off a snippet of his clothing. So they did that. And later on, the rabbis say, when David got old, and we read that he was cold, he was physically cold or spiritually cold, and they brought him Abishag to warm him up. And we surmise that the warming was a spiritual warming, not just a physical warming, but some of the Mepharshim say that the reason why his clothing didn't warm him up because of what he did to the clothing of Shaul. He shamed Shaul by snipping his clothing. Clothing creates dignity, and he took away his dignity. And thus, clothing itself did not warm David when he needed it in the end. So I think we have to, as if some are clergy leaders, we have to own that role properly by dressing with dignified clothing, but make sure we retain our humility and our sense of gratitude to know, here by the grace of God am I, and by the grace of other people who bestowed chesed upon me and recognized me. So we have that antinomy that balances us with clothing. And it also leads to the story of Purim as well, why we dress up in masks, what does that mean to us? I don't want to go into it now because Parshat Tezaveh, and you might be falling asleep already. I know it is actually very late here in Los Angeles, and it's probably later on the East Coast. But I wish you a Shavua Tov, a happy week. We're in Adar, and every day we're more and more besimcha as we lead toward Purim. And I hope that the incense and the Torat and even the Chelbana and the reciting of the Torat every day with Kavanah helps lead us to unify the sparks, connect to the Holy One, realize we're all created in the image of God. We have a responsibility to bring beauty to the world, and we need to commit ourselves to recite it in a way that elevates us and that we overcome Lashon Hara. We use the prayer for beauty, and that we welcome all putrid smelling people, knowing that we have that within ourselves, and we have to love everybody and allow them to be part of the community with the other 10 spices to be transformed so that we can be loved by God and we can create love in the world. And we say Amen, and we say Shalom. Bye.